Right across Melbourne, this is Nova 100. We love chatting with experts on this show, and this lady is one of them. She's a mum of two, and she is Australia's first female astronaut.
The Experts with Jason Lauren.
You're special.
Specialists who specialise in very special things.
Hi, I'm Katherine, and I'm Australia's first female astronaut.
Let's hear from the expert.
Katherine, good morning. Dare I say, the coolest mum in Australia.
Seriously.
Thanks for having me on. It's great to be here.
Oh my gosh, we're so excited. I'm fascinated and equally terrified about space.
What terrifies you about space?
Well, are they aliens?
Oh, no. Jesus, God, here we go. Here we go.
Sometimes I think they walk among us, but, I don't think that they do, to
Katherine,
be honest.
please don't encourage her. Okay, so you are a fully qualified astronaut who, and do I get this right, is now literally just waiting for assignment?
Basically, so once you finish the basic astronaut training like I just did,
Yep.
You can call yourself an astronaut. So that means you're ready for assignment to the International Space Station or the moon as a professional government astronaut. There's about 100 of us that are active globally, which is pretty amazing. And but I've entered what's called pre-mission assignment phase, which is where you keep your training up, you keep fit and healthy, you get out into schools and, inspire kids into STEM careers, and you have a day job. And my day job will be back at the Australian Space Agency using my space engineering skills.
Would you have any idea where you're going? Like, do you go somewhere or do you just fly around in space and come back?
The main destination for astronauts today in space is called the International Space Station. It's a huge space station. It's the size of a football field. Usually there's 7 or more astronauts on it at any time, and it's full of scientific labs basically to look at medicine and biotech, materials sciences, biology and all sorts.
So let's say you're working at the International Space Station, right? This might seem like a stupid question, but is it like a normal working week? Like, do you get 2 days off, and what do you do?
Time off in lieu?
Yeah, and like, what do you do at the space station on your day off?
In a way, so if you're on like a 2-week mission, you just smashed. It's like a sprint. Every waking moment is like doing science, and then you kind of sleep when you return to Earth in a way. But for the most astronauts, it's 6 months. So that's a marathon, not a sprint. So it's something akin to a working day. You wake up floating in your little kind of telephone box size bed. You go eat breakfast. You have a daily call with ground, and then you get to work. And you have this schedule. It's kind of like... It reminds me of, when you see Olympic swimming and they got to keep up with the red line. You got to keep up with the red line of your experiments that day. And also you'll have a couple of hours in the gym on board. You'll have some calls with your family. You'll probably take a few photos out of the window of Earth, to spread the message about, environmental awareness and the importance of that. And then you sleep.
Just quickly on the call to the family, I imagine it'd be like international calls when we were growing up, and mum and dad would be like, "Did you hear the beeps?
Be
That's
quick.
another $1.
Yeah, be quick.
Something like that. It's definitely not as simple as just, picking up the phone and having a video call, but you usually have a video call with your family every week, and you can call them by phone every day if you want, which is really important. A lot of astronauts have kids, so it's important to, keep being involved in their life and share that experience together.
So this might be a dumb question, but we know on like rocket ships, we see the astronauts floating around and there's zero gravity. On the space station, is that the same situation? And when you sleep, are you just floating around in your sleep, or are you like strapped onto a bed?
I love these
or
questions.
is that dumb question?
No, not at all.
Not dumb. So basically, you're floating around the whole time you're up there, and it's part of like the training that we did to get used to that. So we went in 0G planes to learn how to maneuver around and not bump into everything or try and swim, which doesn't work, but you feel like it should, and kick someone in the face.
Lauren, it's like being on the Gravitron, basically.
Oh, the Gravitron.
I heard you saying you're in like a phone box bed.
Well, basically, if you're up there for more than a month, you get sort of like this mini room. It's about the size of, the old school phone boxes. And when you sleep in there, you are potentially floating freely. Some astronauts, they really struggle to sleep that way, so they'll jam themselves into a corner. You know how like a heavy blanket calms people down? Being in space is like the opposite. Like your body isn't touching anything, so people will bring like elastics to try and get that feeling of being like held
Weighted
in.
blankets.
Lauren have to get the weighted blanket. I got it from Adair's. You'd have to take that with you.
Except it's weightless in space, right? How does that work?
Oh my God.
Hey, Katherine, this is every kid's sort of dream. for me, I had glow zone on the roof of my bedroom, right? We're always thinking, dreaming about what it's like in space. You're 39. You've got 2 kids of your own. What do they think? Mum's an astronaut.
I think they think it's pretty great. Like, they love going into the astronaut center. It's like a giant shed full of space mock-ups. They call it the astronauts playground. But they're so young, it was kind of normal. They were also really excited by the vending machine. So I think it's, they're young enough that mum being an astronaut's the same as mum doing any other job. And a lot of their mates at their school over there, their parents were flown astronauts. So, they were cooler than me. So that it was normal for them. But it's still a fun adventure.
Obviously, so I was just going to say, you've done all this training and you've worked your butt off to be a fully qualified astronaut. Obviously, you've done all that because you want to go to space. But let's be honest, it's bloody dangerous. There's been some absolute disasters in the past. Surely there's that fear of actually doing it if you get the call one day.
What movies don't you watch?
I watch all the movies. But, it is sobering. The risks of spaceflight are real. The design risk for a mission end to end is 1 in 200 fatality risk. You don't sniff at that. But that's why we go up there to do important work, to do science you can't do on Earth that creates new medical breakthroughs, new breakthroughs that help in the fight against climate change and many other topics. So for me, that's the reason to go, to make those discoveries. I was a space engineer before, developing, rockets and satellites and space stations. My husband is too, so, he worked on some of the vehicles I'd potentially be going up in.
Wow.
So no pressure on him should I go. But those teams, space engineers and scientists involved in these endeavours, it is a huge team effort. Everyone's really dedicated and determined that things will be as safe as possible for the astronauts. Like in Australia, we have people involved in that too that are absolute experts. So I trust in those teams.
We are chatting with the expert of space this morning. That's right, Katherine is a mum of 2 and Australia's first official astronaut. We're going to continue our chat on the other side of this. Katherine, I do have a question coming up that it's immature, but I know we're all thinking it.
How did you, realise that this is what you wanted to do? Did you start, this probably is another dumb question, did you start as a pilot and you were interested in planes and then it turned into rockets, or was it always space?
For me, I was just a kid that dreamed of the stars and space travel, and I wanted to be the one to walk on those new worlds, the other planets that no one had ever walked on before. And I think that many kids have that dream. The Lego group was just surveyed across Australia and found out that 7 out of 10 kids want to be astronauts. Almost 9 out of 10 are fascinated by space.
That's so cool.
And it's an incredibly powerful fascination that we can use to help kids dream big for themselves. And as a teenager, I went beyond just wanting to explore space for the adventure to being excited by the science. And then when I worked in the industry, I realised how much our society depends on it for, things like farming and banking and Google Maps.
It's funny, until you explain what's actually happening at the space station this morning. I'll be honest, I used to sit there and go, what are we pouring all this cash into? But now I know that that's where research is happening for climate change and to help us actually live longer on Earth. 2 quick things. One, will we be living on Mars one day? Because you hear in the news every couple of weeks, it's potential, moving to Mars.
Once you go, you can't come back.
It's often said that the first person on Mars is sitting in a classroom today, and that could be an Australian classroom.
Wow.
Which is quite incredible. It's the reason that you go to explore those places is for that science, to learn about our solar system, to see if there's life out there. And all of those technologies, they benefit life on Earth. You talked about us spending money in space. There's no bank in space. When you launch a rocket, it's not full of cash. It's investment in industry and science on Earth.
Catherine, just say I want to join you in space. Are there any prerequisites? Clearly you need to be fit, right? You need to be smart. What does one need to study? How do I get to space?
Well, the great thing about wanting to be an astronaut is you can have many types of career. You can have a career in any STEM field, so science, technology, engineering, maths, including being a doctor or a pilot.
Journalism?
There's a need for space journalists in general on the ground. But actually, part of being an astronaut is to be a science communicator. So an astronaut today, you're a scientist and their test subject. You're an engineer, you're a space tradie, you're a medical doctor, and you're a communicator for science. around the world about your country and to the people in your country about the amazing things we have going on. So in the selection process, they look for those kinds of backgrounds. They also look for expeditionary experience, people that have been in the military or say being to Antarctica, operational hobbies like flying or scuba diving or being in the emergency services, living internationally in languages. All of those things were part of the criteria. You also have to be, fit and healthy, so you're safe in space as a crew member, but also likely to have a long and healthy career so that, you can be used for as long as possible and be the right baseline for all the medical research you have to be a guinea pig for.
But you also have to have a huge amount of patience, because I can hardly sit still on a flight from Melbourne to Brisbane, which is like 2 hours, right? How long does it take to rocket to the space station?
And is there a drinks cart?
Well, once the rocket launches, you can be in the space station in a couple of hours or a couple of days, depending on the orbits. So that part is pretty quick. But yeah, you have to be patient in your career. You don't know when you'll fly. It's not in your control.
Can I ask?
No drinks cart.
No. Can I ask?
But the food is interesting.
Well, can I ask an immature question?
I know what you're going to ask. I can read your mind right now.
Everything
Is it about the bathrooms?
Yeah, like you said, there's zero gravity. Like, is there a chance? There could just be a rogue poo floating in the air. Like, how does the bathroom situation work?
My
you have
goodness.
to wear a nappy.
There's so much curiosity about this in Australia. It's really fascinating. Well, actually, yeah, for parts of things like the spacewalks, you wear a nappy, like an adult diaper.
Yep.
And actually, those diapers have gone into developing diapers in hospitals and stuff on Earth. So great spin out there. But yeah, there are space toilets, of course. You're up there for a while.
What,
and
do you just hook a pipe on?
Space toilets.
Kind of like, so the urine's recycled. So yesterday's coffee is tomorrow's coffee. The poos aren't. They become shooting stars burning up in the Earth's atmosphere. And you kind of, the toilet looks a bit like a nappy bin. Like you kind of poop into a plastic bag.
Sorry.
And then it goes.
And then you
gets
shoot it
stored.
into space.
Eventually,
Just out the
yeah,
window.
burns up.
I
So
need
if
to
you're
know
having a
that.
romantic moment looking at a shooting star, it's might not be as romantic.
Well, speaking of romance,
That's amazing.
Sorry.
Can you have?
and also,
can
just
you have
having a little
romance
sip
in
on a
space?
Well, officially, it's never happened, and we never got to that topic in our astronaut training process.
Oh,
so
come
maybe
on.
that's
It didn't come up
a
at
future
school.
topic for me. Yeah,
Guys, we've all
There's
been
no
on
space sex ed.
Yeah, we've all been on schoolies trips and work trips. Come
You
on.
really do need the weighted blanket for that.
Someone's
You're
up
up
there
there
on
for
the
a
space
long
station.
time.
Yeah.
Mate, you guys are there for a long time. And just quickly, can I ask, how many Australian astronauts are there?
There's never been anyone representing Australia before, so I've got the honour of being the first to be backed by Australia, which is incredible.
Amazing.
Because what it means is that, even during the training, and even more should it progress, is that more Australians can be involved. So our scientists, our engineers, our doctors, our kids in their schools. But yeah, now it's a new world. We have an Australian space agency, so let's see what the future holds.
Well,
Amazing.
she is the
It's
first
so cool.
Australian woman to become a fully fledged astronaut, and she's got a pretty cool social handle as well. Aussie Astro Katherine. Love that.
Love that.
Hey, thank you so much for joining us this morning. This has been a real insight. We've really enjoyed it.
So
Thanks for having me. It's
interesting.
fun. Next time from space, huh?
If you go up there, shoot us a text. We'd love to check in.
Sounds awesome.
We'll be
Thank
looking
you.
out for the shooting stars.
No, we won't.
Jason Lauren.
Wake up feeling good.
On Nova 100.
Jason Lauren.
Follow them on socials.